Emma sat in the cold hospital waiting room at 2 in the morning. Her hands would not stop shaking as she held her phone. The call had woken her from deep sleep just hours before. Her father, William, was fighting for his life in the intensive care unit after suffering a massive heart attack. For 3 long years, Emma and her father had not spoken even one word to each other. Not on birthdays, not on Christmas, not even when her mother had begged them both to make peace. The silence between them had become like a thick wall that neither knew how to break down. The last time they talked, it was the worst fight of Emma's life. William had shouted that she was throwing her life away. He wanted her to become a successful lawyer just like him. He had worked so hard to build his law practice and give his family a good life, but Emma had chosen a different path. She wanted to be an art teacher at the local elementary school. Art teaching is not a real career, William had said with anger in his voice. You will struggle with money your whole life. You are being foolish and childish. Emma had fired back just as harshly. You only care about money and status. You never listen to what I want. You are controlling and selfish. Both father and daughter said terrible things that night. Words that cut deep and left wounds that never healed. Emma had stormed out of the house and never returned. William was too proud to call her first. Emma was to her to reach out to him. Now, 3 years later, Emma pressed her face against the cold glass window of the intensive care unit. Her father lay completely still on the hospital bed. Tubes and wires connected his body to beeping machines. His face looked pale and older than she remembered. His grey hair was messy and thin. Emma felt a heavy weight in her chest as she watched him breathe with the help of a machine. All those years of not speaking suddenly felt like such a waste. She remembered when she was a little girl, how William would sit patiently at the kitchen table helping her with difficult math homework. He would explain the problems over and over until she understood. When she brought home her crayon, drawings from school, he would tape them proudly on the refrigerator door. Look at my artist daughter. He would tell visitors with such a big smile on his face. Where had that loving father gone? When did he stop believing in her dreams? Emma wiped tears from her eyes as she wondered how their close relationship had fallen apart so completely. Dr. Roberts, a kind woman with gentle eyes, walked up to Emma in the waiting room. She had been taking care of William since he arrived at the hospital. Your father's condition is stable for now, Dr. Roberts said softly. But the next few days will be very important. His body needs time to heal from this major heart attack. Emma nodded and tried to listen carefully to everything the doctor was telling her. Sometimes patients in comas can still hear the voices of people they love. Dr. Roberts continued, it might help your father if you talk to him. Many families find that speaking to their loved ones brings comfort to everyone. Emma felt her stomach tighten with worry. What could she possibly say to William after 3 years of complete silence? How could she find words when so much hurt and anger sat between them? Take your time, Dr. Roberts said with understanding. There is no rush. Just follow your heart. That night, Emma could not bring herself to leave the hospital. She sat in the uncomfortable plastic chair beside William's bed and watched his chest rise and fall with each breath. The machines round him beeped steadily through the quiet hours. Emma thought about all the special moments they had missed because of their stubborn pride. 3 Christmases without seeing each other, 3 birthdays without phone calls. When Emma got promoted to head art teacher at her school, she had wanted so badly to share the good news with William. But the wall of silence felt too high to climb over. She remembered how William used to take her fishing at the lake every Saturday morning when she was young. He would pack sandwiches and hot chocolate in a thermos. They would sit quietly together on the wooden dock, watching their fishing lines in the calm water. Those were some of the happiest memories of her childhood dot. As the night grew deeper and the hospital grew quieter, Emma felt something change inside her heart, watching her father's still face. She realized that life was too short and too precious to waste on old arguments. She thought about how quickly everything could be taken away. Like it almost was tonight. Emma reached out slowly and touched William's hand. His skin felt warm but lifeless. She took a deep breath and made an important decision. She would find the courage to speak to her father, even if he could not speak back to her. She would try to break through the wall of silence that had kept them apart for so long. Tomorrow, she would begin saying all the words she should have said much sooner. The next morning, Emma woke up stiff and sore from sleeping in the hospital chair all night. The nurses told her that William's condition was the same. He was still unconscious but stable. Emma knew she needed to go to his house to collect some important things he would need when he woke up. Emma drove slowly through the familiar streets of her childhood neighborhood. When she pulled into the driveway of William's small brick cottage, her heart felt heavy. She had not been inside this house for 3 whole years. The front garden still had the same red roses that her mother had planted before she passed away 5 years ago. William had kept them perfectly trimmed and watered. Emma used the spare key that was still hidden under the old flower pot by the front door. As she stepped inside, everything looked exactly the same as the day she had stormed out after their terrible fight. William's reading glasses sat on the wooden kitchen table next to a half-finished crossword puzzle, his favorite. Blue coffee mug was in the sink with coffee stains round the rim. Even the same old newspapers were stacked neatly on the counter. Walking through the quiet house felt like stepping back in time. Emma could almost hear the echoes of happier days when laughter filled these rooms. She remembered helping her mother cook Sunday dinners in this kitchen while William read his law books in his favorite armchair. Emma went to William's bedroom to look for his insurance papers and important documents. She knew he kept everything organized in the top drawer of his old wooden dresser. As she carefully searched through folders and envelopes, her fingers touched something unexpected. Hidden at the back of the drawer was a large brown envelope. Emma's name was written across the front in William's neat handwriting. The ink looked fresh, not old and faded. Emma's hands trembled as she lifted the envelope. It felt thick and heavy, as if it contained many things inside. Emma sat down on the edge of William's bed and slowly opened the envelope. What she found inside took her breath away completely. There, carefully preserved and organized, was every single drawing she had ever made as a little girl. Crayon pictures of stick figure families, watercolor paintings of flowers and trees, even the silly cartoon characters she used to doodle during boring summer afternoons. But there was so much more. Emma found every report card from elementary school where teachers had written comments about her artistic talents. There were programs from school art shows where her work had been displayed. Emma discovered newspaper clippings from when her students had won regional art competitions. Someone had been carefully cutting out these articles and saving them for years. What shocked Emma the most were photographs she had never seen before. Someone had been secretly taking pictures of the art displays in her classroom. There were photos of colorful student paintings hanging on the walls, pictures of the creative projects her children had made for a parents' night. Even photos of Emma teaching her students how to mix colors and use different brushes. Who could have taken these pictures without her knowing? Emma realized that someone had been quietly following her career and documenting her successes from a distance. At the very bottom of the envelope, Emma found a handwritten letter folded carefully in half. The date at the top made her heart skip a beat. It was written just 1 month after their terrible fight 3 years ago. Emma's hands shook as she began to read the words written in William's familiar handwriting. "My dearest Emma," the letter began, I have been sitting at this kitchen table for hours trying to find the right words to tell you how sorry I am. I was completely wrong about everything I said to you that night. I let my own fears and worries make me say terrible things that I did not really mean in my heart. Emma wiped tears from her eyes as she continued reading. When I was your age, I wanted to be a musician, but my father told me it was impossible to make a living playing music. He forced me to study law instead. I spent my whole life wondering what might have been different if I had followed my dreams like you followed yours. The letter went on to explain how William had been driving past Emma's school regularly just to watch the children leaving her classroom. I see how happy they look when they come out of your art room. He had written, their faces are bright and full of joy. You have given them something special that they will carry with them forever. William had written about how proud he was of Emma's courage to choose her own path in life. He had been secretly collecting newspaper articles about her students' achievements because he wanted to celebrate her success, even from far away. He had been taking pictures of her classroom displays because he was amazed by the creative environment she had built for her students. The letter ended with the words that made Emma sob with both sadness and relief. I don't know how. To fix what I broke between us. My dear daughter, I am too proud and too stubborn to pick up the phone and call you. But I want you to know that I love you more than anything in this world. I believe in your dreams, and I am sorry it took me so long to say these words out loud. Emma held the letter against her chest and cried for all the lost time between them. William had been carrying his own heavy burden of unsaid words, just like she had been carrying hers. All these years, they had both been too afraid and too proud to reach out and bridge the gap between them. Now Emma understood that their fight had never really been about her career choice. It had been about William's own regrets and fears from his past. Emma drove back to the hospital with William's letter pressed tightly against her heart. Her mind was spinning with all the things she had discovered in his bedroom drawer. The brown envelope full of her childhood drawings and school achievements sat on the passenger seat beside her. For the first time in 3 years, Emma felt like she truly understood her father. When she arrived at the intensive care unit, Emma pulled a plastic chair as close as possible to William's hospital bed. She looked at his peaceful face and took several deep breaths to calm her nervous heart. The machines round him continued their steady beeping, and his chest rose and fell with the help of the breathing tube. "Hello, Dad," Emma said softly, her voice barely louder than a whisper. "I know you cannot answer me right now, but I really need to talk to you. I have so many things I want to say." At first, the word felt strange and difficult in Emma's mouth. She had not spoken to William in such a long time that she did not know where to begin. So she started with simple, everyday things. Emma told William about her morning trip to his house. She described how his garden roses were blooming beautifully, and how everything inside looked exactly the same as she remembered. She talked about her current art students, and how excited they got when they learned new painting techniques. She mentioned the funny things the children said during class that made her laugh as the minutes passed. Emma found that talking to her unconscious father became easier and more natural. The fear and awkwardness began to fade away. She started sharing deeper feelings that had been locked inside her heart for years. "I found your letter, Dad," Emma said, holding the handwritten pages in her trembling hands. "I found all the pictures and newspaper clippings you saved of my work. I found every drawing I made as a little girl. You kept everything, didn't you?" Emma's voice grew stronger as she continued. "Why didn't you ever tell me you were proud of what I was doing? Why didn't you let me know you were watching my students succeed and celebrating with me from far away? We could have shared so much happiness together if we had just been brave enough to talk." She talked about the deep loneliness she had felt during holidays when other families gathered together. Every Christmas morning, Emma had wanted to pick up the phone and call William to wish him well. Every Thanksgiving, she had set the table for one person and felt sad thinking about the empty chairs that should have held family members. When I got promoted to head of the art department last year, you were the first person I wanted to call, Emma admitted with tears in her eyes. I was so excited and proud, and I wanted to share that moment with you. But I was too stubborn and too scared of being hurt again. I thought you would not care about my success. Emma told William about all the times she had driven past his house late at night, hoping to catch a glimpse of him through the windows. She had wondered if he was healthy and happy. She had worried about him living alone since their mother had passed away, but pride had always stopped her from knocking on his door. I am sorry, too. Dad, Emma said, her voice breaking with emotion. I am sorry I said you did not understand me. I am sorry I called you controlling and selfish. I am sorry I walked away from you that night and never looked back. I thought I was being strong and independent, but really I was just scared of getting hurt again. Dr. Roberts walked quietly into the room and smiled when she saw Emma holding William's hand and speaking. Saying to him in gentle tones, "Keep doing exactly what you are doing," Dr. Roberts said warmly. Love has a special way of reaching people, even when they are in the deepest sleep. Your father's brain is still working, and familiar voices can be very comforting during recovery. On the third day, Emma's younger brother James arrived at the hospital. He had driven for hours from the city where he worked as a teacher. James had sandy brown hair like William and kind green eyes like their mother. He looked tired and worried as he hugged Emma in the hospital hallway. I heard about Dad's heart attack from Mrs. Peterson next door, James said quietly. I came as fast as I could. How is he doing? Emma explained William's condition and told James about the letter and photographs she had found. James shook his head sadly as he listened to the whole story. I have been tired of being the messenger between you two for so long, James said, with frustration in his voice. Every time I visited Dad, he would ask how you were doing. Every time I called you, you would ask if I had seen him. Both of you were too proud to reach out directly, but you never stopped caring about each other. That evening, James sat in the chair on the other side of William's bed while Emma held their father's hand. Together, the brother and sister began sharing happy memories from their childhood. They remembered how William used to take them fishing at dawn on Saturday mornings. They talked about the time he spent hours teaching them both how to ride their bicycles without training wheels. James laughed as he recalled how William used to read them bedtime stories with funny voices for all the different characters. Remember how he would make those terrible jokes at dinner that made Mom roll her eyes, James said with a smile. Emma nodded and smiled too. But we always laughed anyway because his jokes were so bad they were actually funny. As they shared these warm memories, Emma began to understand something important. The father who had hurt her feelings with harsh words was the exact same father who had loved her completely her whole life. People are complicated and imperfect, she realized. They can make big mistakes and still have good, loving hearts deep inside. On the 5th morning of William's stay in the hospital, Emma sat in her usual chair beside his bed. She had brought one of his favorite mystery novels from home and was reading aloud to him in a soft voice. The doctors had told her that hearing familiar sounds and voices could help patients recover faster from comas. Emma was in the middle of an exciting chapter when she noticed something different. William's fingers, which had been completely still for days, were moving just slightly at first. Emma thought she might be imagining things because she was so tired from staying at the hospital for so long. But then she saw his fingers move again, this time more clearly. Emma's heart began beating very fast with excitement and hope. "Dad, Dad, can you hear me?" Emma said, leaning closer to his face and watching for any sign of response. William's eyelids fluttered slightly, then slowly began to open. His brown eyes looked confused and unfocused, but they were definitely open. He blinked several times as if the hospital room lights were too bright for him. Emma could hardly believe what she was seeing. She quickly pressed the red call button to get a nurse to come immediately. Tears of pure joy began streaming down her cheeks as she watched her father trying to focus his eyes on her face. "Dad, it's me, Emma. You're in the hospital, but you're going to be okay," she said gently, not wanting to overwhelm him with too much information at once. William's voice came out as barely more than a whisper because his throat was dry and sore from the breathing tube. "Emma, you're really here?" "Yes, Dad, I'm here with you. I'm not going anywhere," Emma said, her voice shaking with emotion. William tried to sit up in the hospital bed, but his body was still very weak from the heart attack and days of being unconscious. Emma gently placed her hands on his shoulders to help him stay comfortable lying down. "Just rest. Dad, don't try to move too much yet. You need to let your body heal," Emma said softly. Dr. Roberts arrived quickly after getting the call from the nursing staff. She checked William's vital signs and looked into his eyes with a small flashlight. After several minutes of examination, she smiled broadly. "This is wonderful news," Dr. Roberts told Emma. "Your father's recovery is going very well. His heart is getting stronger, and his brain function appears to be completely normal. He should make a full recovery with some rest and rehabilitation." Emma felt a huge weight lift off her shoulders when she heard those words. For 5 long days, she had been terrified that she might lose her father before they ever had the chance to make peace with each other. William looked at Emma with confusion and wonder in his tired eyes. "How long have you been here, sweetheart?" "I've been here since the first night," Emma answered honestly. "I couldn't leave you alone." William's eyes filled with tears as he processed what Emma was telling him. "But we haven't spoken. In 3 years, after all the terrible things I said to you, why did you come?" Emma gently squeezed her father's hand and looked directly into his eyes. "Because you're my dad, and I love you no matter what. I found your letter, Dad, the one you wrote but never sent. I found all the pictures and newspaper clippings you saved of my work." William looked surprised and embarrassed. "You found those things?" "Yes, and now I understand that you were proud of me all along," Emma said with a warm smile. "I know you were scared for me, just like your father was scared for you when you wanted to be a musician. I want you to know that. I forgive you completely. Can you forgive me too for the hurtful things I said?" William's voice was still weak, but his words were clear and full of love. "There is nothing to forgive, my dear daughter. I was a foolish old man who let his own fears make him say cruel things he did not mean. You had the courage to follow your heart and pursue your dreams. That takes more bravery than I ever had in my whole life." Their conversation continued slowly and carefully throughout the morning. Both father and daughter knew that 3 years of hurt feelings and misunderstandings could not be completely healed in just one day, but they had taken the most important first step by choosing love and forgiveness over pride and stubbornness. In the afternoon, James arrived at the hospital after driving quickly from his home in the city. When he walked into William's room and saw his father awake and talking quietly with Emma, his face broke into the biggest smile anyone had seen in years. "Dad, Emma told me you woke up this morning. How are you feeling?" James said, rushing over to hug both his father and his sister. "I feel like the luckiest man in the world," William said with a weak but genuine smile. "I have my children back." And I get a second chance to be the father I should have been all along. James pulled up another chair so the three family members could sit close together. For the first time in many years, the small family felt complete and whole again. "We have so much catching up to do," William said, looking back and forth between his son and daughter with love in his eyes. "We have all the time in the world now, Dad," Emma replied, holding his hand tightly. "We're going to make new memories and never let pride keep us apart again." Outside the hospital window, the sun was shining brightly, and Emma felt like a new chapter of their family's story was just beginning. 6 months had passed since William's heart attack, and his life had changed in the most wonderful ways. Every Tuesday evening, Emma and William met at Miller's Cafe on Main Street. It was a small, cozy place with red-checkered tablecloths and the smell of fresh coffee always in the air. This weekly dinner had become their most precious tradition. William had made a complete recovery from his heart attack. But the experience had transformed him as a person. The man who used to be quick to anger and slow to listen had become gentle and patient. He had learned to share his feelings with words instead of keeping them locked inside his heart where they turned into worry and fear. On this particular Tuesday evening, William stirred cream into his coffee and looked across the table at his daughter with genuine interest and love. "Tell me about the new student you mentioned last week," William said. "The one who was having trouble in your art class." Emma's face lit up with excitement as she began to tell the story. "Her name is Lucy, and she's only 7 years old. When she first came to my class, she was so shy that she would barely speak to anyone. She kept saying that she was terrible at art, and that her drawings looked stupid." William listened carefully as Emma continued. "But yesterday something amazing happened. Lucy painted the most beautiful sunset I have ever seen. The colors were so bright and happy. And she had painted a little house with smoke coming from the chimney. When I told her it was wonderful, she smiled so big that her whole face lit up like a Christmas tree. You have a special gift for seeing the best in people," William said with pride in his voice. "I should have recognized that gift in you much sooner than I did." Emma had started something new at her elementary school called the Art and Heart program. These were special classes where children could express their deepest feelings through painting and drawing. Many of the students came from difficult homes or were struggling with problems that were hard for young minds to understand. What made Emma most happy was that William had volunteered to help with the program. Every Thursday afternoon, he would come to the school and assist the children with their art projects. He had finally learned that the best way to support his daughter's dreams was not to control them, but to become part of them. William was amazed at how naturally he connected with the children. His gentle, patient manner made them feel safe to share their feelings through their artwork. Some children painted pictures of their families. Others created imaginary worlds full of bright colors and happy characters. One Thursday evening, after the Art and Heart program had ended, Emma and William walked slowly home through the quiet streets of their small town. The spring air was warm and filled with the sweet smell of blooming flowers. William suddenly stopped walking and turned to face his daughter. "Emma, I want to tell you something that I should have said many years ago," William said, his voice serious but full of love. Emma stopped walking and looked into her father's eyes, waiting to hear what he wanted to say. "I love you more than anything in this world," William said clearly and strongly. "I am proud of the wonderful woman you have become. I am proud of all the joy and happiness you bring into children's lives every single day. I am proud that you had the courage to follow your heart and chase your dreams, especially when I was too scared to follow my own dreams when I was young." Emma felt tears of happiness fill her eyes as she hugged her father as tightly as she could. "I love you too, Dad," and I am so proud to be your daughter." Through their difficult journey of separation and healing, both Emma and William had learned important lessons about love and family. They discovered that love is not about being perfect or never making mistakes. Real love means being brave enough to say the important words, even when it feels scary or difficult. Love means choosing to forgive instead of holding onto anger. Love means choosing connection and closeness instead of pride and stubbornness. Emma began sharing her story with her students and their parents. She taught them that it is never too late to heal a broken relationship. She also taught them that it is never too early to speak with kindness and understanding, even when people disagree with each other. At the school's annual art show in May, William stood proudly next to Emma as parents and children walked round looking at all the beautiful paintings and drawings. The gymnasium walls were covered with colorful artwork that showed the creativity and emotions of dozens of young artists. Lucy, the shy little girl who had once believed she was terrible at art, had created a masterpiece that drew crowds of admirers. Her painting showed a family of people holding hands under a bright rainbow that stretched across a blue sky. The sun was shining, and there were flowers blooming all around the happy family. Emma knelt down next to Lucy and asked gently, "Can you tell everyone what your beautiful painting means?" Lucy looked up at all the adults gathered round her artwork and said with a confident, bright smile, "It means that love can fix anything in the whole world. Even when people make big mistakes and hurt each other's feelings, love is always strong enough to make things better again." Emma looked over at William, and they both smiled with deep understanding. This 7-year-old child had learned something that had taken them many painful years to discover. As the sun began to set that evening, Emma and William walked home together through their neighborhood. They talked easily about everything and nothing, the way families should talk. The words that had once felt impossible to say now flowed naturally between them, like water in a peaceful stream. They had discovered that the most powerful words are often the simplest ones. Words like "I love you" and "I am sorry" and "I am proud of you" and "I forgive you" have the amazing power to heal broken hearts, rebuild damaged relationships, and completely transform lives. The end.